Shalom Uvracha, good morning, Morai for Abosai. Let's turn with Siyata D'Shmaya. After we first thank our wonderful sponsors, the Mishpacha of Sophie Freeland, I want to just thank again this Chosh, the Mishpacha sponsoring all the weekly Shiurim. L'schus the Aliyas and Neshama Chai and Shosha Fega Bas Yisrael Nochem Aleh Shalom Heilig Neshama Shmizachah to a tremendous continuous Aliyas and Neshama in Gan Eden Shel Maila. So Rabbi say, let's turn, if you will, to this week's Parsha, Parshas Vayeshev. What do we find in Parshas Vayeshev? Eytan told us Yaakov Yosef. Famous question. Eytan told us Yaakov Yosef. Here we are, Perek Lamed Zayin Posuk Beis, and the Torah Kadosh is telling me these are the offspring of Yaakov Avinu Yosef. It's Yosef HaTzaddik. What happened to the other Yud Beis Shvatim? And why choosing Yosef out of all the other sons of Yaakov Avinu? So, if we want to understand the mile of Yosef HaTzaddik, we have to go back to the very beginning, his origins, the moment of his birth. And what do we find? Rachel declares, Osav Hashem Eske, Osav Hashem Eske, and then what? Tikro Shmo Yosef, Flamer Yosef Hashem Li Ben Acher. So Rabbi say, which one is it? Is it Osav? Is it Yosef? Right? For Rashbam, it's a combination of both. But Lamaisa, yes, Osav Escharposi, Yosef's birth concealed the shame. Rashi citing the famous Medrash. Now I can blame my son when things go wrong, but in the end of the day, why did she call her son Yosef? State the Mefurish, it states explicitly that she called him Yosef what? Yosef Hashem Li Ben Acher. I should have another child. Rashi citing the Medrash Rabbi. The Emos and the Viyasayu, they were prophetesses and they knew there would only be 12 children. 11 already were born. I should be Zaychad have another one, and that'll be the final one. Number 12, that'll be Ben Yamin. But the Maisa, you have to ask, you have to wonder the obvious question. She calls her son Yosef to tell us what? Yosef Hashem Li Ben Acher, I should have another son. What type of name is that? That's not a name, that's a sheila, that's a request, that's a bakosha. She's asking the Eibishter for what? I should have another child. What does that say about Yosef? If we know a shame, a name highlights, captures the core essence, the crux of what that child's essence is all about. Chedush Yarim and Bereshis, Shem Sham, the identical letters. Sham, there you are, I can find you. The window into your core essence is what? Hidden, alluded to in your name. Baal Shem Tov in the Sefer Peninei HaChasidus, they cite the Baal Shem Tov. What's your ikar, your primary chelek? The aspect that has chief importance is not your body, the mundane, the material, the tzara guf, the tzara gashmi. It is rather the tzara ruchni, the hainu, the neshama. And what's the neshama of your neshama? What are the osios pinimiyas, the internal letters of the word neshama? Nun, shin, mem, hey, the middle letters, shin, mem, shame. That is your essence, the essence of your neshama, alluded to in the name Ayin, the Gemara Baruch Tav Zayin, and the Gemara Yuma as well. Your name is your essence. So this is the essence of Yosef HaTzaddik. Yosef Hashem Li Ben Acher, his mother's request to have another child. How does that capture the essence of Yosef's Etzamahus? How does that highlight and turn the spotlight on what Yosef's core essence was indeed all about? So we have to ponder that question as well. So where do we start? Let's go to Rav Yitzchak Kunner. The Baal Pachad Yitzchak talks about this idea in a number of places. In his Pachad Yitzchak and Chanukah and Maimer Hay, and his Ma'amorim on Sukkis, Pachad Yitzchak and Sukkis and Maimer Yud Beis, Pachad Yitzchak and Pesach, and Maimer Memtes. It's talking about also by Rabbi and David and the Mamori, Pachad Yitzchak and Sukkis, and the Rishimas Lev by Ben Bayis on Sukkis. Rav Huna discusses this idea in several places, and Rav Huna wonders the following. We see throughout Tanakh that we're not simply referred to as the Bonim of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Yes, Brachos Tav Tezayin with Beis. Ein Kornovus Elo the Shlosha. There are only three in the patriarchal line: Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And yet we find in Tehillim Pei Zayin, and Tehillim Ayin Zayin, Pasuk says, chapter 77, verse 16, Bnei Yaakov v'Yosef Selah. Let's fast forward to Tehillim, Kapitel Pei, and Pasuk Beis. And what do we read over there? Noach Etzon Yosef, Roa Yisrael, Ha'azina, Noach Etzon Yosef. Are we the sons of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, the sons of Yosef? See also Amos in the Treyasar. You have Amos in chapter 5 and verse 15. We're also called the Bnei Yosef. And then you have the Psukim in Yirmiyah. We're called Ha Ben Yaakov Ephraim, with the sons of Ephraim, with the sons of Rav Yosef asks, but which one is it? I thought with the sons of the Avos, how can we be the son of Yosef HaTzaddik as well? There are two distinct, mutually exclusive categories. There's the Sug, the category of the Avos, consisting, of course, of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, based on Brachos Tazayin, Haman base Ein Kor Novos Elo the Shlosha, and then we transition to the Shiftei Kol, to the 12 Shvatim, and they're called the Bonim. They have the Avos and the Bonim. What's going on over here? Explains Rav Feiner in all these places in his Sifrei Pach Yitzchak a very important yesod, and that is that each Av highlighted a unique Nekudas Ha'avos, Adahainu, the fact that established a sense of fatherhood. So let's start with Avram Avinu. What was the unique father-like characteristic connected with Avram Avinu? The Gemara says in Chagiga Daf Gimel and Aleph, Avram Avinu was Tchila Legerin. He was the first convert, the one who reintroduced monotheism to the world, the one who was Megayer Esa Anoshim, Nevesh Sha'asim B'choran, goes around the world disseminating Yiddishkeit, promulgating monotheism throughout the four corners of the planet. Avram Avinu is the first ger, starts a new religion, starts Yiddishkeit, gives us the first tefillah, Brachos Chavav Amabeis, Tefillos Ovos Tikram Avram Esakin Shachris, Shachar, daybreak, a new beginning, a new sense of start all from scratch. That's Avram Avinu, the first ger. That's his Nekudas Avos. He's the first Av, and hence, interestingly enough, he's the first one in all of Tanakh who has the name Av incorporated into his name, into his essence. Adam Rishon was not Av. Mr. Shelach, Shem Emer, who is the Av? Avram Avinu, Avram, Av of Aram, and then ultimately the Avraham, the Avamon Goyim Esatich. He is the first Av. That's his unique Nekudas Ha'avos. And then we move on to Yitzchak Avinu. He's the first one born to two from Erlacha Yiddish parents. The first one born to Avram and Sarah. That's Yitzchak Avinu, born to Avram and Sarah, and is the first one, the Mela, to be Nimo Lishmona. The first one to get a bris on day number 8. B'yom Hashmini Yimo B'Sar Losu, the beginning of Parshas Tazria. He's the first one to get a bris. He's Kodesh Mirechem. Avram Avinu was born to Terach, and Bavabasa Tzadi Aleph Amad Aleph Amasle Bas Karnevo. Who's the first one born to two Yiddish from parents? Yitzchak Ba'al Yedezeh. He is the first one who is Nimo Lishmona, gets a bris milah. Day number 8, he's all about Kedusha, the only Av who can never leave Eretz Yisrael. Meshach Chochma writes, he is Bebechinas a Korban, Ola Tamima, you can't take the Korban outside of Eretz Yisrael. He is Kulo Kedusha, holiness through and through. And then we move on to Yaakov. What do we know about Yaakov Avinu? Yaakov writes the Medrash in Vayikra Rabbah, and the Torah's going him as well. Then Mitoso Shleima, Avram had a Yitzchak, but he had a Yishmael. His bed, figurative bed, was not complete. His offspring were not all righteous. We move on to Yitzchak. He had a Yaakov, but of course he had an Esav as well. And then we get to Yaakov, Shiftei Kol, the Shiftei Yisrael, Kulam Tzadikim Hein, Psachim Nun Vavam and Aleph, Shema Yisrael, Baruch Shem, they are all fully righteous. Mitosa Shleima, the bed is complete. Once the bed is complete, Yedei Zeh writes Rav Feiner, we have the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Mdel and Aleph, there was an Eschadish, a new Aloch in Yisrael, in Klai Yisrael that declares Yisrael Shachota, Afapi Shachota Yisrael, who once branded with that indelible stamp of being called a Jew, once that hallowed stamp is pressed upon your head, you can never remove it, you can never eradicate it. Once a Jew, always a Jew, no matter how much you sin. When did that halacha come into being? It was an Eschadish into the world, Al Yedei Yaakov's establishing Mitoso Shlema, 12 righteous children. His figurative metaphorical bed is now complete, and now a Jew is a Jew. You can never remove the name Jew. That's it. We're done. We can understand Koheles chapter 4 verse 12. We have the three-link chain, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Ein Kor Novos Elo Shlosha. We're done. It's a done deal. Once a Jew, always a Jew. They are the Sharoshim, the roots of Yiddishkeit. As the Maral typically refers to the Avos, they lay the roots, they lay the seeds, from them sprout the Shvatim, Shevet, the rods, the sticks, the branches, the Anofim, all emanating forth from the Sharoshim, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Chutam, and Sholosh, here, Neltek, the Chorah, we're done. Well, the truth is, we're not fully done. We're almost done. The problem is what? There's one way and only one way that you could still remove the name Yisrael from you. How can you do that? You can't remove it from yourself, but you can remove it from your children, Chalila V'chas. If a Yid marries a non-Jew, a Yid marries a Shiksa, what's the halacha? The yichus, the lineage of the child follows what? The yichus of the yem, the mother. You can have a Jew, and once you're a Jew, Yisrael, Shachata be Shachata Yisrael. But if that Jew were now, God forbid, to marry outside the faith, to marry a non-Jew, the ensuing offspring are going to be non-Jews, matrilineal descent. In the end of the day, the children will not be Jewish. So you can never remove that lofty status of Yisrael from upon yourself. But God forbid you could take it away, strip it from your children. So who came to seal that lone breach that empowers every Jew with the ability not to marry outside the faith? Rachmana litzlan. Unfortunately, it exists and it's quite rampant into marriage assimilation today. But who implanted, who ingrained, imbued within us the seeds, the ability to withstand the temptation to be lured and seduced by non-Jewish woman? That was Yosef HaTzaddik, writes of under, with the Maisa with Ashes Potiphar, Sota Lamed Vavam Beis. Here he was tested, seduced, and lured by a non-Jew, someone outside of the Shiftei Ka, and she tried to seduce him, and he almost fell prey. But what? Rod Demusta Yukno saw that glowing, radiant countenance of his illustrious father Yaakov Avinu, withstands the temptation, surmounts that huge obstacle in his path, and he creates and introduces into the Jewish world that ability that we're now henceforth empowered with to withstand the temptation of intermarriage, of assimilation. Unfortunately, so many have fallen by the wayside, but who gave observant Jews the koach to withstand that temptation? Yosef HaTzaddik introduced that koach to the world. So yes, Avram Avinu gave us Shachris, gave us Geirus, started something new. Yitzchak Kodesh Mirechem Nimo Lishmona Yaakov Mitosa Shlemo. Once a Jew, always a Jew. There's only one way to remove it, not from you, to remove it from your children. So who sealed that lone pirza, that lone breach? Who is the one who gave us the ability never to lose the Shem Yisrael, not from ourselves, but from our offspring, our children, our progeny? Who gave us that ability? Yosef HaTzaddik, and that Nisayan, that almost insurmountable test of Ashes Potiphar, and he still passes the test, gives us that Gevaldige Koach. Amela, the only way we have told us is Al Yedei, the Koach that Yosef HaTzaddik introduced to the world. Tahainu, the only way we could ensure the perpetuity, the Hemshech Hadoros, that we could continue passing on that Shem Yisrael, not only upon ourselves, but passing it on to our children and our grandchildren. The only way we can pass it on is through the assistance of Yosef's koach that he introduced to the world by passing the test with Ashes Potiphar. Amela writes of Hunter, and he's not the only one. Writes the Slonim Areb and Nasiba Sholem. Writes the Satam Arov and Divrei Yoel. That's the posuk in the beginning of Ayisha, Preklam and Zion, posuk Beis. Hela told us Yaakov Yosef, who guaranteed, who Kilu is our metaphorical guardian of continuity, who ensured, who guaranteed we will have Toldos, who said that Yaakov Avinu is Shem Yisrael. He was called Yisrael last week's Parsha Vayishlach. Who's going to carry on the Shem Yisrael to the next generation? How do you know the Jews are not going to marry outside the faith? How do you know we're going to perpetuate the Shem Yisrael Ad B'Yaskol Tzedek until Mashiach's arrival? Only Ayadei, the assisting power that Yosef HaTzaddik, his son, introduced into the world, thereby sealing that lone breach in Yaakov's Mitoso Shlema with the Nisayan of Ashes Potiphar. He seals that lone breach, and he ensures we'll have Mitasa Shlema, and we'll be able to perpetuate, to carry on the name of Yosef, of Yisrael, perennially throughout the Dorei Doros. Amela writes, Rafuna writes, Satam Marov writes, the Slonim Rebbe, Eila told us Yaakov Yosef. Who ensured told us to Yaakov Yosef HaTzaddik? Now, how do you know you guaranteed told us? If it's very geschmack. Rabbi Yochanan tells us, Bavametzia Peheyam and Aleph, when you have three generations. Let's go back to the Posuk in Koheles 4:12. Once you have three generations and you're guaranteed, Torah is going to stay in the family forever. And that's the idea, writes the Sefer Siach Tzvi, and that every single morning we get up, we recite in Berachas HaTorah, after Lasik with the Torah, V'harav Noat Hashem Kiddo, and the Torah should be sweet, and our mouths, why mention the grandchildren? We want to create that three-link change. We want it to be Lo Yamasha Torah Picha, we want three generations. Yosef HaTzaddik, Yosef is Gematria 156. Who gives us the ability to have a Ben and another Ben, three generations upon him? Ben, Beis Nun is Gematria 52, Rabbi say. Three generations upon him is Ben is 52 times 3. 52 times 3, of course, is 156, Gematria Yosef. Based on Remaz, I saw Rabbi Yosef Chaim, and his Gemaldige Sefer Benayo Al Torah. Yosef is 156, which is Gematria 52, 52, and 52. Three consecutive generations upon him. And of course, Yitzchak Avinu is gematria 208. Yitzchak 208, which is Shem Havaya 26 times 8. Lamaylam and Atzefa. And we go down a generation. Yaakovinu is what? 26 times 7. Yaakov is gematria 182. 26 times 7. And who's the Hemshech of Yaakov? Yosef. 26 times 6. Yitzchak 208. 26 Shem Havaya times 8. Yaakov one generation below. 26 times 7. 182 is Yaakov. Let's continue that thought. Yosef 156. And Shem Havaya times 6. 26 times 6, 156. Of course, 6 corresponds to Yesod. That is the meat of Yosef HaTzaddik. Is Keneged Midas Yesod. Ayin Tshuva Sam Sefer Norchaim Simon Samach Vav. Easy way to remember. Tshuva 66 talks about the Chashivas of the 6th Aliyah. Keneged Yosef. Alpi the Zohar Kodesh, of course. That's Keneged Tikkun Yesod. That is Yosef HaTzaddik. And in the conflicting orders and the sequence when it comes to the Zayin and Shpizin, and when it comes to the 7 guests that visit us sickest time. I know Yosef HaTzaddik, according to many of the orders, Yosef is our 6th guest corresponding to the Midah Hashishis, which is T, which is Yesod. Other orders have him Keneged Netzach, but l'chayra it's just 2 different perspectives. What's Netzach? Nitzchias. Who gave Klal Yisrael the Nitzchias? Who in essence is the guardian of continuity? Yaakov brought the Shem Yisrael into the world, and we're all stamped with that indelible mark. We're branded with that choice appellation called Yisrael, and you can never remove it from upon yourself. Yisrael Shachata. You can't take it away from you. You can take it away from your children. Who gave the ability to make sure that you're going to marry within the faith and thereby maintain the Shem Yisrael, the Dorei Doros throughout all of time? That's the koch of Yosef HaTzaddik. That's why Feiner says, go to the Pasuk in Avadju in the Treyasar Parakala Pasuk Yudches. He base Yaakov Le'esh. He's the fire. Base Yosef Lahava. He's the tip of the flame. The fire might stay in place and consume. What gives it the ability to be carried onward? The Lahava, the tip of the flame that's always moving, that's shaking it, that's carrying it forward. Yaakov is the Eish. He's the Yisrael right here and now. Who's going to be the tip of the flame to carry it forward? That's the koch of Yosef HaTzaddik, the Lahava onto the Eish. That's the connection of Yaakov and Yosef. Eila told us Yaakov Yosef. Who guarantees? Told us L'Dorei Doros. Who's going to be that guardian of continuity, of perpetuity? Who's going to make sure the Shem Yisrael remains perennially throughout all the generations? That's the koch of Yosef HaTzaddik. Mela, we can answer our questions. Not only do we understand this week's Parsha, Eila told us Yaakov Yosef. Of course, he had a lot of toldos. He had a lot of offspring. He had 12 children and many, many grandchildren. Who is the one who ensured toldos to Yaakov Yosef? That's why we're not just called the Bnei Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. That's why in Tehillim, in 77:16, in 82, in Amos 5:15, that's why we're called the Bnei Yosef, Ben Yaakov, Ephraim, and Yirmiyah. Why we Nesyaches? Why do we attribute our lineage to Yosef as well? Because the only way we remain Yisrael and our children also stamped with the name Yisrael is because of the koch that Yosef introduced into the world. He's the Lahava, the tip of Yaakov's fire. He is Eila told us Yaakov Yosef. Mamela, that is the Hemshech. That's why we can be Nesyaches to Yosef HaTzaddik as well. That's the ability he gave us in Torah. So let's flip back to Parshas Vayetze, to the origin, his birth, the moment when Rachel Imenu named her precious beloved son Yosef, for whom she waited oh so long. And what does she say? Vatikra Shmo Yosef Lem Yosef Shemli Banach. What type of name is that, we asked? That's not a name, that's a request. No, Lefi Aniastaiti. What is Yosef Shemli Banach? We can only have a Ben Acher and a Ben Acher. Yosef Gematria Ben 52 and another Ben 52, another 52 consecutive generations. What she called in Vayechi Roa Evan Yisrael. Rashi cites the Targum Onkelos. What's Evan? Conjugation of the 2 words Av and Ben. Av and Ben are Rashi Tevis, an acronym, and he's foreign, right? Av Ben Nechad, Ein Bas Nechta. 3 generations. Chuta Mashulos Luaheri Yanate. Who gives us 3 generations of Zaracha? Zerach. Who gives us the 3 generations of Ben Yosef HaTzaddik, Eila told us Yaakov Yosef, and Rachel Imenu, Derech her Nevuah, her prophecy. She understood that. Hence, what name is appropriate to her son? Yosef Hashem Li Ben Acher. Who's going to instill and ingrain within Klal Yisrael that ability to have noch a Jewish son, and another Jewish son, and another Jewish son. The Phineas Daiti, that's Yosef Hashem Li Ben Acher. That is his name. That captures his essence more than anything else. He is Yosef Hashem Li Ben Acher, and another Ben, and another Ben. Eila Tadas Yaakov Yosef, Noah Kitzon Yosef Ben Yaakov Ephraim. Ayubed. We're going to be Nesyachis not only to the Yavas HaKadoshim, Yosef HaTzaddik as well. Yaakov might be the Aish, but who's the Lahava who carries that Aish forward? That's going to be the Koch of Yosef. Yosef Shemli Baracher, another Jewish son and another Jewish son. That's a Latodas Yaakov Yosef. Mamela Parshas Vayeshev. Parshas Vayeshev. How can you understand this is Vayeshev Yaakov? He's settled. What do you mean? Amiyar Kovatzol Rogzo Yosef. And then we got the brothers hating him. We got a whole balagan going on this week's Parsha. As Parsha is about Vayeshev, Yaakov is settled. You bet it's all about settled. Why? Yaakovinu's illustrious legacy is perpetuated in this week's Parsha. And then you say that Yosef HaTzaddik overcomes. And that is the Gewaldigkeit of Yosef HaTzaddik through him as the guardian of continuity. Hey, Latodas Yaakov Yosef. That is Vayeshev. That's when Yaakov's family can know that we're settled forever. 3 generations, we are guaranteed. Now you know we're going to carry it forward forever, and that's this week's Parasha Vayeshev. And now we're settled only Ayidei the Koach of Yosef Hashem Libanacher. He brings that Koach into Klal Yisrael. That's the Koach of Yosef HaTzaddik. Rabbi say have a gavaldig day and a great Kishmaka rest of the week.